your life. Bing bong.
If you see these dogs in your front yard, just know upstairs I'm going hard. Bing bong.
What do you want to tell Joe Biden right now?
What's up, baby? Take me out to dinner.
Hey, yo.
Ariana Grande, what's up, mama? I'll come to Coney Island to...
On a quiet Thursday evening in Galveston, Texas, the sound of gunshots shattered more than just the peace of a residential neighborhood. When the smoke cleared and the sirens fell silent, a family was destroyed forever, a community left questioning everything they thought they knew about the people living next door. What could drive a 16-year-old girl to turn a weapon against the woman who gave her life? Tonight, we examine a case that has left investigators, families, and neighbors grappling with questions that may never have answers. This is the story of Tiamoya Moore, a 34-year-old mother of 5, whose life ended in the most unthinkable way possible. This is True Crime Chronicles, and I'm your host bringing you the facts, the investigation, and the haunting details of a tragedy that has rocked Galveston to its core. If you're new to our channel, we investigate real cases with respect for the victims and their families. Hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell, because every week, we uncover stories that demand to be told. Now, let's examine what happened on Avenue Q. On the evening of September 12, 2025, emergency dispatchers in Galveston received multiple frantic calls. The reports were consistent and chilling. Gunshots had been heard in the 5100 block of Avenue Q, near 52nd Street. When officers arrived at 7:49 p.m., they discovered a scene that would haunt even seasoned investigators. Tiamoya Moore, just 34 years old, lay critically wounded inside her home. She had been shot multiple times. Despite the rapid response of Galveston EMS and the medical team at UTMB emergency room, Tiamoya's injuries were too severe. She was pronounced dead shortly after arrival. But this wasn't a random act of violence. This wasn't a burglary gone wrong or a case of mistaken identity. According to witnesses at the scene, the person responsible was someone who should have been protecting Tiamoya, not harming her. The alleged shooter was her own 16-year-old daughter. To understand this tragedy, we must first understand who Tiamoya Moore was. She wasn't just a statistic or a headline. She was a mother, a daughter, a woman trying to raise her family in a world that can be unforgiving. Tiamoya was the mother of 5 children. According to family members who spoke with local media, she was described as a loving woman who was devoted to her family. Her own mother, devastated by the loss, painted a picture of a daughter who cared deeply about her children's well-being. The family now faces an unimaginable situation. Not only have they lost Tiamoya, but 4 of her remaining children have lost both their mother and their sister in one devastating moment. Family member Alicia, speaking to Fox 26 Houston, expressed the confusion and heartbreak that has consumed everyone who knew them. These weren't strangers living parallel lives under the same roof. This was a mother and daughter, connected by blood, by history, by the countless moments that make up a family story, which makes what happened next even more difficult to comprehend. Thursday, September 12th, began like any other day in the quiet residential area near Avenue Q and 52nd Street. Neighbors went about their routines, children played, families prepared for dinner. Nothing suggested that before the night was over, their peaceful neighborhood would become the center of a murder investigation. As the evening shadows grew longer, tension was building inside the Moore home. We may never know exactly what transpired in those final moments, what words were exchanged, what emotions reached their breaking point. But at approximately 7:50 p.m., the silence was shattered. Neighbor Graciela Molina was among those who heard the horrific sequence of events unfold. In her interview with KHOU 11, she described the terrifying sound.
She was screaming, and I hear boom, 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 like
sounds that pierced the evening air. She was screaming. She was screaming. And to hear? Boom, 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 boom. 5 shots. 5 distinct sounds that would forever change multiple families and leave a community searching for answers. The screaming Molina heard was likely Tiamoya's final moments of life. Multiple neighbors immediately called 911. their voices shaking as they reported what they had witnessed. Police spokesman Kurt Koopman later confirmed that officers received several calls about a woman being shot multiple times. When first responders arrived, they found Tia Moya more suffering from severe gunshot wounds. The scene was chaotic. Neighbors gathered outside. Emergency vehicles filled the usually quiet street with flashing lights and urgent radio chatter. EMTs worked desperately to save Tia Moya's life, but the injuries were too extensive. As paramedics rushed Tia Moya to the University of Texas Medical Branch emergency room, police began securing the crime scene and interviewing witnesses. What they learned would make this case even more shocking than they had initially realized. Galveston police detectives arrived to find a crime scene that defied easy explanation. A woman had been shot multiple times in her own home, but there were no signs of forced entry, no indication of robbery, no evidence of a stranger's presence. The witnesses who had called 911 were consistent in their accounts. They had heard screaming, followed by multiple gunshots. But most disturbing of all, several witnesses told investigators that they had seen the suspected shooter, Tia Moya's own 16-year-old daughter. According to police reports, the teenager had fled the scene on foot immediately after the shooting. As investigators processed the scene, photographing evidence, and interviewing neighbors, they made a crucial discovery. A firearm was found near the home, presumably the weapon used in the attack. But then something extraordinary happened. As detectives continued their investigation, the suspect returned. The 16-year-old girl who had allegedly just shot her mother multiple times walked back to the scene of the crime while police were still processing evidence. Kurt Koopman, speaking for the Galveston Police Department, confirmed that the teenager was taken into custody without incident when she returned to the home. There was no chase, no dramatic confrontation, no resistance. She simply returned and was arrested. This detail raises haunting questions. Why did she return? Was it guilt? Confusion? Did she not fully comprehend what had just occurred? Or was there something else driving her back to the place where her mother lay, dying just hours before? The teenager was transported to the Jerry J. Esmond Juvenile Justice Center, where she was officially charged with murder. Due to her age, her name has not been released to the public, but the gravity of the charge reflects the severity of what investigators believe occurred. As news of the arrest spread, the community struggled to process what had happened. This wasn't a case of domestic violence involving a partner or spouse. This wasn't gang-related violence or a drug deal gone wrong. This was matricide, one of the rarest and most psychologically complex crimes that law enforcement encounters. The Avenue Q neighborhood, typically quiet and family-oriented, was transformed overnight into the epicenter of media attention and police investigation. Yellow crime scene tape blocked off sections of the street where children usually played. News vans lined the curbs where neighbors had once felt safe walking their dogs in the evening. Graciela Molina, the neighbor who heard the gunshots, spoke for many residents when she described the shock and disbelief that has settled over their community. In interviews with local media, neighbors consistently expressed the same sentiment. This kind of violence wasn't supposed to happen here, especially not within a family. The psychological impact on the community cannot be understated. When violence occurs between strangers, people can often find ways to feel safe by changing routines, installing security systems, or avoiding certain areas. But when a child kills a parent, it challenges fundamental assumptions about family bonds, about safety within our own homes, about the predictability of human behavior. Parents in the neighborhood found themselves having difficult conversations with their own children, trying to explain the unexplainable. How do you tell a child that sometimes families hurt each other in ways that seem impossible to understand? For Tia Moya's extended family, the community impact is secondary to their personal devastation. They are mourning the loss of a beloved daughter, sister, and mother, while simultaneously trying to understand how another family member could be responsible for this loss. The four surviving children face an incomprehensible situation. Their mother is gone forever. Their sister is in juvenile detention facing murder charges, and their family structure has been completely destroyed. Child Protective Services and family members are working to ensure these children have stable care, during this traumatic period. Family member Alicia's interview with Fox 26 revealed the raw emotion and confusion that has consumed everyone connected to this case. She spoke of questioning why, a question that may never have a satisfactory answer. The family is not only grieving Taimoya's death, but also grappling with the reality that the person they must blame for their loss is themselves a child, a member of their own family. As investigators continue building their case, numerous questions remain unanswered, questions that the community, the family, and the public are desperately seeking answers to. What led to this moment? Was this the result of a single argument that escalated beyond control, or were there warning signs that went unnoticed or unreported? The investigation is still in its early stages, and police have not released details about potential motives or contributing factors. Mental health professionals who specialize in family violence and adolescent psychology note that cases like this are extraordinarily rare, but often involve complex factors that may not be immediately visible to outside observers. Family dynamics, mental health issues, substance abuse, or other stressors can create volatile situations that explode without warning. But experts also caution against speculation. Every case is unique, and the factors that contribute to such extreme violence are typically multiple and interconnected. What appears to be a sudden act of violence may actually be the culmination of issues that have been building over time. The legal questions are equally complex. How will the juvenile justice system handle a case of this magnitude? Will the 16-year-old defendant be tried as a juvenile or as an adult? What role will mental health evaluations play in determining her competency to stand trial? Perhaps most haunting of all, could this tragedy have been prevented? Were there intervention points that were missed? Resources that could have been provided? Warning signs that could have been recognized? These questions may never be fully answered, but they reflect the broader societal struggle to understand and prevent family violence in all its forms. Cases involving family violence, particularly when a child is the perpetrator, present unique challenges for law enforcement, mental health professionals, and the judicial system. While we cannot speak to the specific circumstances of this case, due to the ongoing investigation and the juvenile status of the accused, we can examine the broader context of such tragedies. Child psychologists note that adolescent brain development, particularly in areas related to impulse control and emotional regulation, continues well into the 20s. This doesn't excuse violent behavior, but it does provide important context for understanding how conflicts can escalate beyond what might seem rational to adult minds. Family crisis experts emphasize that domestic violence often occurs behind closed doors, making it difficult for neighbors, teachers, or even extended family members to recognize warning signs. The COVID-19 pandemic and its aftermath have placed additional stresses on families, sometimes exacerbating existing tensions or creating new pressures. However, these experts also stress that the vast majority of families facing stress, conflict, or even significant problems do not experience violence of this magnitude. What transforms typical family conflict into lethal violence often involves multiple factors converging in tragic ways. For the surviving family members and the community, healing will require time, professional support, and possibly a re-examination of how we identify and assist families in crisis. The tragedy has highlighted the importance of accessible mental health resources, family support systems, and intervention programs designed to prevent domestic violence. As we conclude tonight's investigation, Taimoya Moore's family continues to mourn her loss while grappling with circumstances that seem impossible to accept or understand. A 34-year-old mother's life has ended. For children have lost both their mother and their sister, and a 16-year-old girl faces murder charges that will forever alter the course of her life. The investigation remains ongoing. The accused teenager remains in juvenile detention as prosecutors and defense attorneys prepare for what will undoubtedly be a complex legal proceeding. The community continues to search for answers to questions that may not have satisfactory explanations. This case forces us to confront uncomfortable truths about family violence, about the vulnerability that exists even within our most intimate relationships, and about the limits of our ability to predict or prevent such tragedies. Tonight, we remember Tia Moya more not as a victim in a crime story, but as a mother who loved her children, a daughter who was cherished by her family, and a woman whose life was cut tragically short. We also remember that behind every headline lies human suffering that extends far beyond what any investigation can fully capture. What do you think could have prevented this tragedy? How can communities better identify and support families in crisis? Share your thoughts in the comments below. We read every single one and value your perspectives on these difficult cases. Don't forget to like this video if it helped you understand this complex case, and subscribe to True Crime Chronicles for our weekly deep dives into the stories that challenge our understanding of human behavior. Ring that notification bell so you never miss an episode. Next week, we'll be examining another case that has left investigators and families searching for answers. Until then, hold your loved ones close, and remember that behind every crime story are real people whose lives have been forever changed.
This social media influencer was murdered by her husband, and it's the perfect example of why you should not believe everything you see on social media.
So beautiful, can I have your number? And I said, no. And he said, oh, playing hard to get. And I said, no, I'm simply not interested in you. And he said,
She was found on the side of the road, stripped of her clothes and her voice. But even in death, Alexis still spoke through the video she left behind. Thousands watched her smile, pose, laugh. But when internet sleuths replayed her final uploads, they started seeing things no one noticed before. And what her followers uncovered pointed straight to the man she once called her husband. Before the headlines, before the hashtags, she was just Riley. Riley Matthews, 20 years old, born and raised in Greenville, Tennessee. Her world was small: 2 stoplights, 1 coffee shop, and a bedroom window that looked out onto the mountains. But inside that world, she was becoming something bigger. To her 238,000 followers, she was bold, funny, and real. She posted makeup tutorials with messy counters in the background. She laughed at her own jokes. She showed her bad skin days. She talked openly about her anxiety, her bad relationships, and how she was learning to love herself. In her videos, you could hear her mom shouting from the kitchen. Sometimes her dog would bark mid-sentence. She didn't edit it out. She was raw, and that's what made her matter to so many. She lived with her mom, Jenna, her biggest cheerleader and her only parent. Her dad had left when she was 5. Riley's best friend, Morgan, said she always had a camera in her hand, even when things got hard. It was like therapy for her, Morgan told us. TikTok was where she could be seen, even if no one saw her in real life. She didn't want fame. She wanted purpose, to turn her pain into something people could hold on to. But not everything posted online is the whole truth. And the cracks, they were already there. You just had to know where to look. Last active, 11:42 p.m. Video posted at 12:05 a.m. Found dead at 7:46 a.m. This setup not only humanizes Riley, but also adds a layer of duality. Online visibility versus personal vulnerability. It lays emotional groundwork, gives the viewer someone to root for, and subtly plants suspicion that something dark was already taking shape. It was a Thursday night. Riley had promised her followers a new GRWM at 10 p.m. She was filming from her bedroom like always, ring light on, music low, voice steady. But something was different. She seemed distracted, eyes darting off camera. She fumbled her concealer. She kept glancing toward her door. I swear I just heard something. She laughed nervously, brushing her hair behind her ear. The chat lit up with laughing emojis. It's just your cat. Girl, you're paranoid. It's a ghost. But at 10:28 p.m., the live stream ended. Abruptly. No goodbye. The next morning, Riley didn't text Morgan back. She missed a scheduled FaceTime with her mom. And by noon, her fans had flooded her last post with comments. Are you okay? Where are you? You good? At 3:41 p.m., a neighbor called in a welfare check. The officer knocked twice. No answer. The door was unlocked. They found her face down on the carpet, just feet from her bed. dressed in the same oversized hoodie she wore in the stream. Phone still in her right hand. TikTok still open. Blood had soaked into the rug beneath her. A faint red spray clung to the wall near her desk. Thin, directional, controlled. The lights were still on, but the air in the room felt still, like everything had stopped hours ago. Written in thick black eyeliner across her vanity mirror were 6 words. Everyone saw, but no one helped. There were no signs of forced entry. No defensivos. No signs of a break-in. The report later noted, the scene was clean, deliberate, quiet, and yet something felt wrong. Her phone's camera roll showed no new photos after 10:26 p.m., but her TikTok drafts folder contained a video no one was meant to see. Investigators would later describe the footage as haunting, shaky, dim, her voice barely a whisper, just a few seconds long, but long enough to hear her say, "He's here." Time of death, estimated between 10:30 p.m. and 11 p.m. When detectives arrived at the scene, there was no weapon, no sign of a struggle, no fingerprints other than Riley's, and her phone never left her hand. So they started with what she left behind, her digital world. Her TikTok account had over 500 videos, makeup routines, trending dances, tearful late-night confessionals. But buried in the drafts folder, they found a 14-second clip that would change the course of the case. The video was filmed just hours before her death. Riley is dancing in front of her mirror, but for just a moment, someone appears in the reflection, just standing, still, watching. At first, police thought it was a glitch in the mirror, a coat rack, maybe her mom in the background. But when they enhanced the frame, they saw a figure. Male, broad shoulders, hoodie. He never moves, but he's watching her. She doesn't seem to notice. Forensic techs verified the video's timestamp, 9:42 p.m., less than an hour before the stream went dark. She was never alone. They now had 2 chilling truths. Riley's killer was likely inside her apartment, and he was there long enough to be captured on camera. As the video gained traction online, the theories poured in. Riley's followers became amateur sleuths. The hashtag Justice for Riley hit 8.2 million views in a single weekend. Police began tracing possible suspects, starting with the most obvious. Man detective suspect number 1, Jordan Bell, the ex-boyfriend. Jordan Bell, 22, Riley's ex. Their breakup had been public, too public. Comments on their old videos showed them arguing. Riley had blocked him in February. He had messaged her from at least 4 different fake accounts since. "You're not safe without me," he once wrote. But the timeline didn't line up. Security footage placed him 30 miles away that night. Police confirmed he clocked into work during the hours Riley died. Still, people weren't convinced. Man detective suspect number 2, the fan, ICJurel_91. Then came the fan, a username that popped up again and again in Riley's comments at ICJurel_91. The comments started harmless, fire emojis, heart eyes, praise. But they turned darker. "You belong to me. I know where you live. I'll find you." Detectives traced the IP address. It led to a college campus 3 states away. A 19-year-old student. He claimed it was a prank. He had never left Ohio, and he had a dorm camera alibi. Man detective suspect number 3, the stalker, local reports. Then came the real scare. 2 weeks before Riley's death, local police received multiple reports of a man seen following women in her neighborhood. One report read, "He waited outside the store. Said he followed me from TikTok." A sketch was released. Tall, hoodie, goatee, but the trail went cold. 3 suspects, 3 dead ends. And then investigators found something in the audio of Riley's last draft. The 14-second clip, the one with the mirror figure, had one more secret. A voice. "You're not going to ignore me this time." It was barely audible, but it was there. Detectives pulled metadata from the video. The IP address from the draft upload led to a burner account Riley had messaged once. The username? "Help me, 1999. One message was still recoverable. Sent 48 hours before her death. "Please stop messaging me. You're scaring me." Using IP tracing and data subpoenas, they found the source. It wasn't a stranger. It wasn't a random fan. It was someone who'd been close, too close. Riley's part-time photographer, 28-year-old Darren Chase. He had shot dozens of her TikToks. He knew her lighting setup, her schedule, her weak spots. QQQ. Riley had once called him like a big brother in a caption. But behind the scenes, friends said he became possessive, demanding exclusive access, texting her late at night, getting angry when she filmed with others. On a Thursday morning, just 12 days after Riley's death, federal agents moved in on a quiet townhouse in suburban Phoenix. The man inside was calm. He didn't resist. He just said, "Took you long enough." His name was Aaron Blakely, 31, Riley's former media manager. He wasn't just a social media consultant. He had access to Riley's content bank, her email, her location metadata, and her private TikTok drafts. 6 months earlier, Riley had quietly ended their partnership after a series of inappropriate messages and coercive behavior. She told her friend, "He's starting to feel like a threat, not a partner." After Riley cut ties, Aaron didn't stop. He created ghost accounts to monitor her, bought access to third-party tools to track engagement on her posts, messaged her under aliases, manipulated algorithm data. Then came the texts, dozens of them, recovered from a burner phone found during his arrest. "I made you. If I can't make you famous, I'll make you unforgettable. Your silence will be the loudest sound." In the months leading up to her death, Riley had complained of glitches in her social media. Drafts going missing, captions edited without her knowledge. She thought it was a TikTok bug. It wasn't. Then came the moment that made headlines across the world. Investigators discovered that Riley's final video, the one that went viral posthumously, wasn't posted by her. It was scheduled by Aaron, minutes before he killed her. The video was a mashup. Riley's smiling face, a trending soundbite. But in the background, frames no one noticed at first, was a flicker of movement, a shadow across the doorway. Viewers thought it was just an eerie coincidence. It wasn't. The clip gained over 22 million views in 3 days. At the trial, prosecutors unveiled a calculated digital blueprint. Aaron had planned the murder down to the second. He had created calendar entries titled "Final Post" and the end of her story. He used location tracking to ensure she was alone. He disabled her Wi-Fi remotely to prevent live streaming. The defense tried to paint Aaron as mentally unstable, not malicious. But the digital evidence told a different story. One of control, revenge, obsession. He wanted the world to witness her death, but not know they were watching it. And for 2 days, they didn't. On the 4th day of the trial, Riley's mother took the stand. She carried with her the phone Riley used to record her final moments. She clutched it the entire time. Through tears, she said, "The world saw her die and didn't even know it." She was trending while we were planning her funeral. The jury found Aaron Blakely guilty on all counts: first-degree murder, digital impersonation, cyberstalking, and unlawful access to electronic communications. He was sentenced to life without parole. Remember to be kind. You never know what someone's going through. On September 17th, at exactly 11:48 a.m., the judge delivered the final sentence. Aaron Blakely, found guilty on all counts, was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. The judge called it one of the most deliberate, digitally enabled murders in modern history. But no sentence could undo what had been done. Riley's TikTok account still exists. It's no longer active, but it hasn't been deleted. Instead, it's become something different, a digital headstone. We still think about you every day. You made us smile before the world broke our hearts. Millions have visited her page, left messages, lit virtual candles. Her videos, once entertainment, now echo like fragments of a life paused too soon. One follower wrote, "Her dream was to go viral for her voice, not her death." In the weeks that followed the verdict, Riley's fans, now a grieving community, channeled their sorrow into something louder. They started a petition, one signature at a time. The goal? To push for what they called Riley's Law. The proposed legislation seeks to hold platforms accountable for ignoring patterns of digital abuse, like mass reporting, stalking behavior, and burner account threats. Riley's mother, now a fierce advocate, speaks at rallies. They say her murder was unpredictable, but it wasn't. She left digital breadcrumbs. She asked for help. She was ignored. Let's make sure no other family has to go viral for the wrong reasons. From Los Angeles to London, candlelight vigils were held in Riley's honor. Not in stadiums or city halls, but on screens, Zoom memorials, TikTok tribute chains, live streams of people lighting candles from their bedrooms. Her story transcended platform boundaries. Instagram, YouTube, even Reddit communities rallied behind her legacy. And in that fractured grief, the internet did something rare. It slowed down. It listened. Riley Matthews was more than a victim. She was a daughter, a creator, a voice for others. She turned her own struggles into light and gave that light away for free. Now, she's remembered not just for how she lived, but for the way the world failed her. A voice silenced but not forgotten. Yellow Square, this marks the emotional crescendo of your true crime chronicle. Riley Matthews never planned to become a symbol. She wanted to make people laugh, to connect, to heal others through what she had once survived. But somewhere between the hashtags and heart emojis, a predator watched, unnoticed, undeterred, until it was too late. She filmed her life to feel seen. But in the end, it was a video that saw everything. Aaron Blakely will spend the rest of his life behind bars. But the platform that let him watch her, message her, track her, still hasn't changed its rules. Do you think justice was truly served? Or was this just the end of the first act? If this story shook you, there's more. Because what happened to Riley wasn't an isolated tragedy. Subscribe for more real stories with dark twists.
Chicago rapper who goes by Young QC was reportedly doted on by his mother, Yolanda Holmes. Decided to have his mother killed to get his hands on her insurance policy.
She was sleeping when it happened, a pillow beneath her head, the television still flickering. Her front door was unlocked, just like he told the man it would be. He knew exactly where she'd be, which bedroom, which side of the bed. One shot was enough to kill her, but he pulled the trigger again, just to be sure. The man who ordered her death wasn't a stranger. He wasn't a jealous lover. He wasn't after money from the register or something in the safe. He was her son, her only child, the same boy she raised alone for over 2 decades. The same boy she celebrated birthdays with, cooked for, prayed for, defended. The one she called her king. His name was Calmaine Wilson. Online, he went by Young QC. He called himself a rapper, an entertainer, a rising star. But the reality was far more ordinary. A stalled music career, a small following, and a growing resentment that what he thought he deserved never came fast enough. He could have worked harder. He could have walked away. But instead, he made a choice. He chose money over blood, attention over loyalty, and death over patience. This wasn't random. It wasn't impulsive. It was planned, deliberate, cold. After the hit, he emptied her bank accounts, bought flashy clothes, threw money in the air on social media. Then he posted a tribute to her online like the rest of them. He cried at her funeral, said he missed her smile. But behind that grief was a secret. Behind that hug to her friends was a lie. Behind that calm voice was the man who put the plan in motion. What turns a son into a killer? What leads a 23-year-old to orchestrate his mother's murder while pretending to mourn her? This is not just a story of crime. This is the story of a betrayal so personal, so calculated. It shattered a family and left a city stunned. In the heart of Chicago, inside a quiet third-floor apartment on Montrose Avenue, a woman was murdered in her sleep. There was no break-in, no forced entry, no signs of struggle, just a body, a phone, and a single mother who wouldn't wake up. Her name was Yolanda Holmes, 45 years old, known for her bright smile, her loyalty, and the way she made people feel like family. She owned a successful salon. She raised her son by herself, and she worked every single day to give him the life she never had. To neighbors, Yolanda was the kind of woman who remembered birthdays. To clients, she was more than a stylist, she was a friend. To her son, she was everything. The community mourned her like family. Her friends wept in disbelief. Her son cried on television, begged for justice, and said he would do anything to find out who did this. But the deeper detectives looked, the more things stopped adding up. The phone records, the money trail, the behavior. What started as a tragedy began to feel like something else entirely. And when the truth finally came out, it left even the most seasoned detectives shaken. A son, orchestrating the death of the mother who gave him everything. Not for vengeance, not for survival, but for fame and fast money. And he nearly got away with it. Yolanda Holmes was born and raised in Chicago. She knew hardship early, growing up on the West Side, surrounded by struggle but grounded by family. When her son Carmaine was born in 1989, everything changed. She poured herself into motherhood, took a job, then another, then opened her own salon on the North Side. It wasn't fancy, but it was hers. Clients came for the cuts, stayed for the conversations. Some said being in her chair felt like therapy. But behind the steady smile, she carried a lot on her shoulders. Carmaine was her only child. She raised him alone, gave him what she never had, shoes, clothes, and attention. But as he got older, something started to change. He stopped calling her mom, started calling her Yolanda, started flashing money online, talking big, rapping louder. She didn't always understand his world, but she kept supporting him. I'm gonna be famous, Ma. You'll see. Everybody's gonna know my name. Online, he called himself Young QC, but there was no record deal, no concerts, just rented cars, stacks of cash, and a handful of followers. Yolanda tried to be patient, but friends said she was worried about his temper, his obsession with attention, the company he kept. She'd confide in co-workers after long shifts. Sometimes she'd just shake her head and say, "That boy don't listen to me no more." In the summer of 2012, something changed. Carmaine began asking about her finances, insisting she make him the sole beneficiary of her bank accounts, telling her he needed control for business reasons. "What if something happens to you? You gotta think ahead." Yolanda agreed, maybe reluctantly, maybe just wanting peace, but it would be a fatal mistake. What she didn't know was that he had already begun planning. Quietly, carefully, in the weeks before her death, Carmaine contacted a man named Eugene Spencer, a low-level associate, a man with a gun. The deal was simple: break in, kill her, and get paid. He said, "Make sure my mama dead." That's what he told me. September 2nd, 2012, the night before Labor Day. Yolanda was home alone, getting ready for bed. The apartment was calm, quiet, ordinary. At 4:35 a.m., Eugene Spencer was buzzed into the building. The door wasn't locked. He made his way up the stairs. In his pocket was a gun. In his mind was a promise. What happened next took less than 60 seconds. 2 shots to the head, 1 to the chest. Yolanda never had time to scream. Spencer ran out the way he came, down the stairs, into a car driven by Carmaine's girlfriend, Loriana Johnson. They didn't say a word. Chicago police arrived within the hour. No signs of forced entry, no known enemies, and no immediate suspects. It looked clean, professional, like someone had studied her routine. It wasn't until they pulled her phone records that the cracks began to show. Within 48 hours, Carmaine emptied Yolanda's accounts. He withdrew thousands, bought designer clothes, got a new car. Then he posted a video, smiling, laughing, throwing cash into a crowd, shouting, "This is for my fans. My mom would want this." Detectives were watching, and they started asking questions. 3 months later, he was arrested, along with the gunman and the getaway driver. The case that began with a mother's death had now become something no one expected. A son at the center of it all. At first, Carmaine appeared to be just another grieving son. He posted tributes online, said he was heartbroken, said he'd give anything to have her back. But police noticed something off. He cried for the cameras, but behind closed doors, he wasn't asking about the investigation. He wasn't calling for updates. And according to Yolanda's friends, he wasn't showing up for her funeral planning either. Detectives brought him in for questioning. He was calm, almost rehearsed. He said he'd been asleep during the time of the murder, said he didn't hear anything. that he and his mom were close. But then came the first contradiction. When asked how the killer got in, he said the door was always locked. Except it wasn't. You're telling me you don't know how someone got into a secured building, but also that your mom always left the door open. It didn't make sense. Then the family started talking. Yolanda's cousin told police she was worried weeks before her death, that something about Carmine had changed. She said, "If something ever happens to me, it's going to be my son." I told her not to say that, but she said it like she meant it. Police wrote it down. That was the first real turning point. They pulled Carmine's phone records. It was all there. Dozens of calls. Late-night texts. Including one, the night Yolanda was killed. 4:57 a.m., Spencer to Carmine. Done. But when police opened his laptop, everything changed. What they found wasn't just disturbing. It was chilling. Search history. Payout calculations. Lyrics about death and revenge. But one folder was different. Inside were photos of Yolanda. Sleeping. Sitting on the couch. Eating dinner. Taken from distance. Unaware. Tracked. When confronted, he barely reacted. He said they were for a tribute project, that he was documenting his mom's last year alive. But she didn't know she was dying. Did she, Carmine? No answer. In the days after Yolanda's death, Carmine didn't just grieve. He capitalized. He posted video after video of himself throwing cash into crowds, renting luxury cars, calling himself the realest rapper in Chicago. And every single dollar came from her life insurance policy. Forensic psychologists were called in. They looked at his behavior, past history, online footprint. Just ego, an overwhelming hunger for validation. It wasn't just about money. He wanted to be someone, to be seen. And when the fame didn't come fast enough, he took matters into his own hands. Former friends said he always exaggerated, made up stories about being in the music industry, talked about his haters trying to stop his rise. He started saying things like, "If my mom dies, I'll be rich. Real kings don't answer to no woman." Friend quote, "I thought he was just talking crazy. Didn't think he meant it." But when detectives listened to the jail phone recordings, they realized he wasn't finished. Even from behind bars, Carmine was plotting. He called Loriana, told her to delete things, told another friend to hide a second phone, tried to shift blame, claimed Spencer acted alone, that he was framed, but every call was recorded, every lie added to the case. By the time the trial started in 2019, prosecutors had what they needed: money trail, call logs, surveillance, a full conspiracy. The defense argued he was misunderstood, that Spencer acted on his own, but no one believed it. The jury left the room. The court fell silent, and Yolanda's family waited for justice. It was the early hours of August 23rd. Southside Chicago, the city asleep, but inside one apartment, footsteps echoed on linoleum floors. The key had been stolen. The lights were off. The killer already inside. Yolanda Holmes was asleep in her bed, her satin scarf still wrapped around her head, her phone charging at the nightstand. She never saw it coming. Prosecutors would later describe it in chilling detail. Eugene Spencer, then just 22, walked into the bedroom, gun in hand. Carmine had told him, quote, "Make sure she don't make it." She woke up, just long enough to scream. Then a flash of light. One shot. Yolanda staggered, already bleeding, and fell off the side of the bed. Spencer moved fast. He beat her. He stabbed her. Again and again. Blood soaked the sheets. Her lamp knocked to the floor. The last thing she saw may have been her own son's sneakers, left in the doorway. Detectives said the scene looked personal. This wasn't just a hit. It was an execution done with emotion. The killer didn't flee right away. He walked through the apartment, took her keys, rummaged through drawers. Carmine had instructed him to take her car too. The BMW parked outside. What police uncovered next stunned everyone in the courtroom. Carmine hadn't stayed home like he claimed. He was parked nearby, waiting. The phone call came in at 4:57 a.m. Spencer's voice. "It's done." Carmine replied with a single word. "Bet." Later that morning, a family member grew concerned. Yolanda wasn't answering. Her phone went to voicemail. They arrived at the complex. and what they found shattered them. Blood, silence, her body on the floor. The woman who raised her son alone was gone. She was just 45 years old. Detectives worked quickly. The signs pointed to a forced entry at first, but nothing was taken. No signs of robbery, just a clean, brutal attack. And then came the moment that cracked the case open. A neighbor's security camera. It showed Spencer walking up the sidewalk, minutes before the gunshot, and Carmaine texting just seconds after. They traced the weapon back to Spencer. Fingerprints on the doorknob. Shoe prints matching a pair found in Carmaine's closet. Phone pings confirmed it. Spencer was in the apartment at the time of the murder. Carmaine was less than a block away. He never lifted a finger, but he didn't have to. In January 2020, the verdict came down. Guilty of first-degree murder, of conspiracy to commit murder, of hiring a hitman to kill his own mother. He showed no emotion, no apology, no words. The courtroom didn't erupt. It just broke, like the silence Yolanda left behind. Yolanda Holmes was buried just 4 days after a murder. Her children wept. Her mother barely spoke. Friends stared in stunned silence. But Carmaine Wilson didn't grieve. He performed. The day after she died, he uploaded a video to YouTube, a freestyle rap filmed in a luxury car. In the lyrics, references to betrayal, loyalty, revenge. That same week, he emptied her bank accounts. In court, the evidence left little doubt. But what shocked the jury wasn't the how. It was the why. Carmaine had his mother listed as the primary on a $90,000 life insurance policy. Prosecutors alleged the motive was simple. He wanted her gone, so he could cash in, so he could become a rap god. I love my mother, but we had issues. She wouldn't let me live how I wanted. She was controlling. The defense tried to claim emotional abuse. They painted Yolanda as overbearing, but the jury didn't buy it. The texts were damning. Carmaine, handle that tonight. Spencer, she gonna scream? Carmaine, just make sure she gone. Yolanda's mother took the stand, her voice trembling. She wasn't perfect, but she loved him. She gave up her whole life for that boy, and he took hers like it was nothing. The public reaction was intense. In local media, Carmaine was vilified, but online some fans still defended him. Some said it was fake news. Others said she must have done something to deserve it. Even in the face of overwhelming evidence, there were still those who refused to believe his son could do something like this. Eugene Spencer pled guilty and testified against Carmaine. He said he was promised money. He said Carmaine made it sound like business. He broke down when the 911 call played. Yolanda's last breaths, her final screams. For some, Spencer was just a pawn. For others, a willing weapon. But no one argued about Carmaine. He orchestrated it. He watched it unfold. And then he flaunted the money. January 31st, 2020. Sentencing day. The judge looked Carmaine in the eye and called him, quote, cold, calculated, depraved. He was sentenced to 99 years in prison. Eugene Spencer received 100. You planned her death like a business transaction, but that woman raised you. And in the end, you took the one life that gave you yours. The apartment Yolanda once lived in now stands empty. Her business closed. Her memory left behind in photos and police records. Her 2 children now live with relatives. Her daughter still refuses to say his name. The hardest part for the family? Not just the murder, but the betrayal. The questions that will never have answers. Was this always in him, or did something in him break? Narrator, low and final. How does a son become the killer of his own mother? Was it greed? Was it ego? Or was it something deeper? Something too broken to ever be understood? In the end, the money didn't matter. The music stopped. The cameras cut. And Carmaine Wilson, young QC, was no longer the star of the story. He was the villain. She raised him on her own, built a life from nothing, shielded him from the streets, paid for studio time when no one believed in his dream. And he thanked her with a bullet, with silence, with a plan so cold, even his accomplice would later say, it felt like I was erasing a stranger. In the weeks after her death, detectives found something buried in Yolanda's iCloud backup, something they didn't expect. A draft message, never sent, Just 4 words typed into the phone's notes app. He's not my son. Was it a metaphor, a figure of speech, or something else? Detectives never found a clear explanation. But in her final days, friends said she had been distant, paranoid, as if she sensed something was wrong. Did she know what was coming? Did she fear him before the night he took her life? The answer may never be clear, and maybe that's what makes this case linger. He chased fame. He bought followers. He flaunted wealth that wasn't his. But in the end, all that's left is a story we still don't fully understand. A mother lost, a son in chains, and a nation watching, still trying to make sense of it. Was this the act of a calculating monster, or a young man poisoned by the illusion of celebrity? And if money and fame were the prize, was it worth her life? A mother loved him. A community trusted him. And he threw it all away for an image, a track, and a dollar amount. Now he sits in a concrete cell. No mic, no crowd, just the echo of what he did. You've heard the story. You've seen the facts. But the truth, that's for you to decide. Do you think Carmaine Wilson always planned it? Or did something inside him finally break? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if you know someone chasing the wrong kind of fame, share this story with them. Because some lights shine just long enough to destroy everything around them. He had the world at his feet, but that wasn't enough. Not for him, and not for the darkness inside. This wasn't just murder. This was betrayal in its most chilling form. Do you think Carmaine Wilson always planned it? Or did something inside him finally break? This story left more questions than answers. If it struck a nerve, share it with someone who needs to hear it. And if you want more true crime that hits this deep, don't forget to subscribe and turn on the bell.